Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and while you're at it, click the bell to be notified of future videos. I call this one Little Ohio Star. I started out making a 9-inch finished block because I thought with these big squares you could use charm squares, but that made these quarter square triangles and all these units in here pretty small to work with. So I had already done the 9-inch information, so here it is, and then I added the 12-inch block, and I'm going to be making the 12-inch block today. So you can't use charm squares with this, at least not for the big patches, the big squares. So let's look at the block. We have a finished block of 9 inches or 12 inches, whichever you prefer. Here's the diagram, and really the only unit we have to piece are these quarter square triangles in each of the Ohio Star blocks. All the others are just squares, small squares and large squares. Here are 4 blocks set block to block. And this is not right. I need to take this out. So that will be changed. So here is the 12-inch block. We have 3 patches. Patch A is a 2-inch finished square. We cut 2.5-inch squares. And here are the patches we need for the squares. And here are the Quilt dies that cut these. Patch B is a 2-inch finished quarter square triangle, and we're going to piece these using the 4 at a time method for quarter square triangles. If you are rotary cutting and you don't want to use that method, then you will cut patches. And I marked this here because you cut a square 3 1/4 inches. Then you cut it in half twice on the diagonal and you get 4 patches. So if you're doing Quilt, you're using patches. And if you're using the 4 at a time method to make quarter square triangles, we just use the square. And that's why I have here that the background is 16 patches or 4 squares. And the other 2 fabrics are 8 patches or 2 squares. But we'll go over that. And patch C is a 6-inch finished square, and we have 2 of them, and we cut 6.5-inch squares. Here is my new way of laying out this information. This is the background fabric, and we cut A and B patches from the background fabric. And this tells you for A you need 8 squares at 2.5 inches. For B you need 4 3 1/4 inch squares. That's for the quarter square triangle 4 at a time. Or cut each square in half diagonally twice for 16 patches. So there you have your choice. And then it goes on. Here is A. We cut 1 square from each of these. And B, we'll cut larger squares. This is for the quarter square triangle. We'll cut 2 from each of these fabrics. The instructions here are for 1 fabric, and you have to do it for both fabrics, whatever's listed here. In patch C, we'll cut 1 square from each of these fabrics. Here are the fabrics, and I've divided them up sort of. These large squares are going to be just plain squares in opposite corners like this. And then we'll put the Ohio stars in between the 2. Here are the squares. These go in the corner and the center. And we'll take these fabrics. There are 4 at 3 1/4 inches. And we're going to use these to piece our quarter square triangles 4 at a time. If you're not familiar with this technique, stay tuned for a short tutorial that will show you how. The tutorial you're about to see has 3 different fabrics for the quarter square triangles. We are only using 2 different fabrics. So just disregard the information about the one used twice, because both of the fabrics are used twice. And it will make sense once you see the video and you work on your blocks. For the quarter square triangles 4 at a time, we have our 4 squares. This fabric will show up twice in each quarter square triangle. Put these right sides together, so one with the dark and one with the light. Mark a diagonal line on the backs of both of these fabrics. Stitch on both sides of the diagonal line on both of these pieces. Cut on the diagonal line. Normally I press the seams open, but for this technique. Press toward the fabric that is duplicated. Press toward the yellow fabric on all of these. Take the different fabrics and match them together and flip this over. What we're doing is making sure the yellow fabric is on opposite sides, and we're using the seam allowance or the pressed seam as our guide, and we're nesting these seams. And you want to make sure that all of these sides are even. Draw another diagonal line. I like to put some pins on here just to hold it in place while I take it over to the sewing machine, because I don't want the seams to unnest. Stitch on both sides of the diagonal line and do the same thing for this set. Cut them apart on the diagonal line, and when we open them up, we have quarter square triangles. They all look the same. Press open and then cut off all the nubs. All of the quarter square triangle units are done. If we look at step 2, we're going to put together the Ohio Star unit. We need to pay careful attention to the placement of the quarter square triangles, and then the squares go in between them. This is actually a 9-patch unit because there are 3 across and 3 down. We'll take the quarter square triangles and they go like this. The white squares go on the corners, and then the accent square goes in the middle. We'll sew the 3 units in the first row, second and third row, press the seams open, and then sew the rows together. And do this for both of the Ohio Star units. All we have left to do is to put the block together. Just lay it out. Then we'll sew these 2 together and these 2. Press the seams, then sew the rows together. And I like to flip these over and put a pin here so I know this is the side to stitch when I go to my machine. Now we'll sew these together. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and while you're at it, click the bell to be notified of future videos.